get started. Okay, so thank you to everyone, Cassandra and Susan, for joining live. And I'm sure more people will sign in, but I know this time doesn't work for everyone, which is why we are recording this session. And thank you so much. This is a live Ask Me Anything About crowdfunding, and I do these every few months or so, just when people are starting the process of planning their campaign and getting things going. So hang on, let me just start my video. Hi everyone, just want to say hi. That's me on the screen, and it's a little uncomfortable to put my face out there in front, but that is a little bit of what's involved when you crowdfund your book, is you are putting yourself out there, you're making yourself vulnerable in many ways, and I'm going to be talking about that and why it's so important that we get used to being in front and in charge and a little bit uncomfortable, because crowdfunding is uncomfortable. So I'm going to turn off my video so that you can see the slides, because the slides are important, but I will jump back in on video. Okay. So let's get started. A little bit about me, in case you don't know who I am. I wanted to just let you know why I'm qualified to answer your questions. And I have not always been doing this. I started doing this full-time back in 2017. And my academic background, I have my master's in public health and worked with the CDC and WHO, but none of that really matters. It just explains a little of my background and how I take an analytical approach and really have great attention to detail on a lot of things, but mostly statistics. And it's so great to work with so many different authors, because I get to see a lot of different perspectives in terms of what works and what doesn't work from a marketing perspective. But it also means I've seen a lot, and that gives me a unique perspective, as opposed to someone who's just done it themselves one time. Is that when you work with a lot of different people and interview them, you get a sense for the different audiences and the different genres and the different types of books, as well as the different strategies. So earlier this year, I passed the 100,000 K mark in terms of helping other people. Oh, good. Okay, I'll check the comment. And helping other people raise money on the platform. And so that's on both Kickstarter and Indiegogo, although I will say that most of that money was raised on Kickstarter. It doesn't mean Indiegogo is not a great platform, and we'll go into that later. My job, what I've been focused on, is really creating both paid and free resources to help authors crowdfund their books. I really want to help other authors find success. And the free resources are there because they're what I couldn't find when I was looking. All I found were resources on comic books, and the audience for comic books were very different than the audience that I was working with. And so a lot of the strategies, I just didn't see the same results and was wondering why. So, you really have to understand the different markets. And if you are a children's book author, you're going to have different strategies than a comic book author, who will have different strategies than someone who is doing a sci-fi fan fiction. Okay, so all of the core messages are the same, but how your audience responds and the messages they respond to will be different. And I coach and support authors through the stress and uncertainty of crowdfunding. Again, we're asking people for money, and that is such an uncomfortable thing to do. And a lot of people need help and hand-holding and being reassured that it's going to be okay and just keep going. And that's what I'm there for. And I've also been in your shoes. I recently crowdfunded my first children's book earlier this year in April and May. And that was quite a different experience than the crowdfunding, my first Kickstarter campaign back in 2016. So social media changed a lot, and the strategies changed a lot, and my goals were different. So I've had two very different experiences to share as well. Okay, so so again, who am I? So other people have called me these things. This is me just tooting my own horn. The Kickstarter Queen, which I'm not sure I'm royalty. The Kickstarter Whisperer, which is very nice. I guess I help others and whisper things in their ears, I guess, or bring out the best in people. Crowdfunding Guru. I'm not sure I'm a guru per se. I don't have a cult-like following that I know of. And I've also been called an endless font of knowledge and support. And that is why I'm doing this session, is really to support you so that you get the most out of this session and get your questions answered. Now, I know that some people may have questions, but we can all benefit from hearing everyone's questions in the room, which is why I prepared, I asked for questions before this session, and I will have time after the session for the people on the call. to get their questions answered. So we can all learn from each other, but this is really about giving you feedback and as well as pushing you out of your comfort zone. That is my job. It's a coach. Now I'm a coach. Okay, so question number 1 comes from Cheryl. And she says, if we don't have an audience established yet, is it better to crowdfund with Indiegogo since we can keep the funds we raise? All right, so this question gets at the 2 different types. So Kickstarter is all or nothing, and Indiegogo, you have the option of fixed funding or flexible funding. Now with flexible, you get to keep whatever you raise, and fixed funding on Indiegogo is just like Kickstarter. So you get to choose what you want. Now, let me just say this right from the bat. Do not crowdfund before you have a crowd. And please don't choose Indiegogo Flexible just so that you can keep whatever money you raise. Okay, you can raise how much money do you want to get from your friends and family? It's better off just asking them for $20 than it is to go through a platform if you don't already have a crowd and if you're not going to take it seriously. And my next slide is going to explain why you need to do all or nothing. So this is actually a slide from my course. And actually, no, it's from the free course, from the Introduction to Crowdfunding. So if you've taken my free course, you will have seen this. You will work harder to reach your goal. If you have more on the line, you're really going to bust your butt to reach your goal. Not only that, but your backers are going to help you reach your goal. If they are truly invested in you and your book, they will help you reach that goal. If it's flexible funding and you get what you get, people are much less inclined to help share or email a friend or do those things that you really need them to do to help you reach your goal towards the end. You're also probably going to set a more realistic goal. I have seen some pretty outrageous goals set on Indiegogo for like $100,000 for a book. And it's just not realistic. And people see that it's not realistic and then they don't take you seriously. So there's a lot that goes into that. Your backers are monetarily invested in the production of your book. So when you do a flexible funding, you're sending the message, albeit subliminally or subconsciously, that you don't really need the money because you're going to deliver the book whether you reach your full funding or not. When you say, look, it's all or nothing. If we don't hit 7,000, there's no book. Their backers feel monetarily invested in the production of your book. And that's why it works. Now, keep in mind that all crowdfunding campaigns for books have a 30% success rate. Now, 37% of those that are all or nothing are more likely to succeed over the flexible funding or keep it all model. So you're really kind of reducing your chances of success for all the reasons I mentioned above when you go with the flexible funding where you keep whatever you raise. And that is because you're playing it safe in so many different ways. All right, I hope that answered your question, Cheryl. Now here's just a quick comparison chart, and we can look at these two, Kickstarter and Indiegogo. I don't have experience with Ulule, that's a French-based one, and Patreon. I just have experience as a Patreon supporter myself, but not as a person using Patreon to get support, if that makes sense. But so we're going to focus on Kickstarter and Indiegogo, and you can see just the differences here. That again, this is for a slide from my course. That really lays out exactly what's different and what's the same. You can see the fees are all the same. So the main differences on Kickstarter and Indiegogo is just the type of funding. And of course, there's deadline changes and things like that. I have a blog that really lays out all of the differences between these two platforms. So if you're interested in that, I will send that link to you as well. Okay, next question. There were a lot of questions. Everyone has questions on building your audience, which is great. Absolutely great. But so basically it just ends up being, what are your tips on building an audience on social media, author pages, blogs, Instagram? How can I build my audience beyond my friends and family, which is exactly what we should be doing. We want to build our audience beyond our friends and family because this is our business and we want to be reaching real readers, and that's the whole point, right? All right, so I'm gonna turn this back off. All right, here we go. So all social media and building an audience, it just takes a lot of time. And you're stuck in this cycle of create, share, engage, create, share, engage, create, share, engage. It goes on and on and on and on and on. And this is why it takes forever, because you create a blog or an image or a podcast or a video, and then you share it, and then you engage with people who interact with it. And sometimes you have to pay people to engage with it. You have to sponsor a post or boost a post on Facebook or whatever it is, and then engage with people that way. When they like it, you can say, hey, blah, 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 or whatever. So there is this system, and it's the same thing on Instagram. You have to create content that is compelling and interesting and relevant for your audience and share it consistently. And this is done over time. There's really there's no good answer. Everyone wants a shortcut, and unfortunately, there's no shortcut. So on social media, just post really interesting content. Do a good job. Take the time. Content generation is like my full-time job, basically. I'm just constantly putting up videos and blogs, and it can almost become addicting to the point where you're like, wait, I need to also work on my book. But the whole idea is to build excitement about your book and really get people super excited about what's coming. You can do countdowns, you can do contests, you can do giveaways, you can do so much. So you want to build excitement for your book on social media. And then, of course, you run a few ads or sponsor posts and invite people to like. The people who like your post, you can invite them to like your page, and that's how you grow your page. I don't get that much growth on my page. I usually get growth after I sponsor a few posts and have an ad, and then people like that, and then I invite them, and then it just grows that way. So also when you have no audience, yes, share to your personal page as well. And the idea is that some of your friends and family are genuinely interested. Not everybody, but some are. And then some may know people in their network who are genuinely interested in your book and what you're doing. So don't neglect your personal network, because your personal network is connected to their personal network who is not in yours. And so you can really leverage that. And when you are first starting out, there's really no choice. You have to leverage your personal network before you can build an external stranger network. You know what I mean? So there's really not much else I can do. You can do about that. And then one little like sort of ninja attack is you engage with like-minded people or authors or illustrators, and you engage with their audience. And so you can do this. You can engage as your professional page on other people's professional pages. So you leave comments. I leave comments as Lisa Furlan Consulting. And then someone goes, oh, that was a smart comment. And then clicks on my page and says, oh, well, she has cool stuff. Like, let me follow her. And that's how you grow in that way. This takes time. It takes a lot of time. And it's really frustrating because everyone wants it done now, but that's not how life works. And you have to have lots and lots of conversations and just have fun and be yourself and be authentic, and you will see growth. And then, of course, there's email outreach. So during your campaign, you're going to be direct emailing a lot of people. I found social media to be so noisy that the only time I saw real response was when I sent someone a direct email, direct and personal, which means you're spending a lot of time crafting direct and personal emails to people and saying, hey, Aunt Karen, you said you had a friend, da, 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 and it involves a lot of tracking who you've already contacted and when, and what their response was. So there's just a lot of people management that you have to do during your campaign. But your email newsletter, you should be getting people signed on to your email newsletter. We're going to talk about that more in a little bit. And also you don't want to spam anyone. And spam is when you keep sending out messages and messages to people who have not indicated that they want to hear from you. And so we email people without spamming them by getting their permission first. And that's how we get people on our list. So you send one unsolicited email and you say, hey, I'm preparing my Kickstarter or Indiegogo campaign. If you are interested, please sign up here. This is what the book is about, why I think you would be interested, or if you know anyone who is interested, please forward this email to them and they can sign up to get on my mailing list and be the first to know. Right? So once you get people's permission, you're no longer spamming them. They go into your official newsletter and they get the option to opt out of your emails or unsubscribe from you if that is the case. Now, I've had a lot of my family unsubscribe from my emails because it doesn't pertain to them, and that's totally fine. You don't want to be sending emails to people who don't want to receive them, right? So here are some places where you can share this newsletter sign-up link. And it's really a lot of places. So, I mean, you send it to that email to your friends and family, your Facebook page, profile, your cover photo. I mean, you do this months in advance before you launch and build your newsletter. Facebook groups, if they allow it, your Instagram profile, your email signature, your LinkedIn profile, your website homepage, the blog sidebar, the footer. like put the link everywhere. Make it so people kind of stumble across your link and then get them to sign up. Your YouTube video description, your own, if you're on YouTube, do that. Basically all your social media and all your emails and everything, get people to log in that way and sign up to receive your emails. And then of course I have a blog on this specifically on getting email subscribers. And don't worry, everyone's going to get the PDF of my slides. So all these links will be there. All right. How do you calculate your campaign goal amount from Allison? This is a big one. So the quick answer is you have to cover your expenses. So the writing, the formatting, the printing, the marketing, everything. Now, how you calculate that, you have to know how much it's going to cost you. So you have to have some things worked out. You have to know if you're going to do print on demand, or if you're going to do a print run, or what you're going to do, because those are different expenses. And you have to add 10% for platform fees and payment processing fees. And this is true for Kickstarter and Indiegogo. I know it said 5 and then 3, but it adds up to around 10%. You have to think through your shipping and fulfillment. So how much that's going to cost, if you need to buy mailing envelopes and stamps and things like that. And then of course you have to account for an oops factor or a fudge factor, because undoubtedly there will be people who either drop their pledge, which happens more and more. The more popular your campaign is, the more you have strangers backing your campaign, the more likely they are to not be loyal to you, and then they cancel their pledge at the last minute. So it's kind of, and then there's also credit card transactions that just don't go through. Hopefully it's not a lot, but that happens as well. So if, on paper, it says your campaign raised $5,000, but the amount in your account is something like $4,100 or whatever, when all is said and done. So will that still cover all of your expenses to fulfill all those orders that went through? I don't know. So you need to calculate that up. That's what the OOPS factor is for. And then that is your campaign goal amount. And that's what you need to be crowdfunding. Okay, now Allison had another question. How many people on my email newsletter should I have before launching? Okay, so this is a big, it depends, right? Like how long is a piece of string? So if you already have a newsletter, you need to look at what is your current newsletter open rate and what's the click rate when you're running promotions that people are interested in. Is your book something your current audience is going to be interested in, or do you need to build a new newsletter specifically for your book? I can't answer those questions for you, Allison. Hopefully you can. And so if we assume a 30% open rate and let's say a 4% click rate and a 2% purchase rate, you can do the backwards math with your goal in mind and think about what you need. So this is just, again, this is like squidgy math. So if you have $5,000 goal and you're saying on average, you do a bunch of market research, you look at other campaigns, you say on average $35 per person. That's generally what it is. You need 144 backers. And so of that, you do the backwards math and say for 500 people, 30% open. Now you can retarget those people who didn't open. That's the whole idea. So that's why it's good to have an email list in your official newsletter, so you know who opened it. When you're just sending emails direct via Gmail, you have no idea who opened your email, unless you're using a CRM like HubSpot or something, which I do recommend, so you can track who's opening your emails and clicking and whatnot. And then you can kind of see how even an email list of 500 people might not result in a lot of pledges. And so you're going to need to find these people in other ways. So where are you going to get your 144 people? Email, social media, and external blogs, websites, podcasts, things like that. And definitely educate your audience on what to do on launch day. You're going to be like blue in the face telling people what to do on launch day. On launch day, you do this, blah, blah, blah. It's very important that you take action on launch day. I think I wrote like 3 blogs on what to do on launch day. And I posted videos and I did podcasts on what to do on launch day. Like I was all over the place educating people on what to do. And even if it's your friends and family, you say, look, launch day is the most important. I'm going to be super honest with you. I need you to take action on Tuesday. I need you to click and back the campaign. Even if it's for $1, just back the campaign on Tuesday. That's the day I need you. And then of course, retarget people who don't open your first email and focus on your warm audiences. Okay. Are there specific times we should avoid crowdfunding? So Cheryl had this question, and I would say yes. I mean, of course, there are specific times, but it totally depends on your audience. And so technically, crowdfunding your book at any time is totally fine because it totally depends on your audience. And what you don't want to do is launch when people aren't paying attention. So if your target audience, they're parents of small children, don't launch during a school holiday. Like, don't launch on February break because everyone's off on vacation, or a summer break. I know some of you are thinking of launching in July, and I don't know if you're launching to teachers. Teachers are finally able to kind of pay attention, but they may not be checking their email. So you need to be in touch with who your audience is. Now, if your target audience is a group of sci-fi comic book enthusiasts and you have a big conference in July, that may be a great time to launch. So what works for one may not work for another, which is why it really depends on who your audience is. And then also look at your campaign the whole time, because sometimes there may be like a holiday in the middle and you need to expect those days to be slow and how to accommodate around it. So for example, I was working with an author and their campaign went over Thanksgiving, US Thanksgiving, and people are gone and they're traveling for like 5 days. And so it was just really like just slow. And if that's towards the beginning of your campaign, that can really affect the momentum and can really just bring your whole campaign to a halt. So you have to be careful and watch out for national and religious holidays. And I mean, definitely don't end your campaign on a weekend, but don't launch your campaign on a weekend, please. And don't end your campaign on a weekend. And definitely don't end your campaign on a holiday weekend, because if you're at the end and you need that extra $500 and no one's paying attention and no one's around, you really don't want to see your campaign fail just because you ended at a bad time. All right, Cheryl had another question about shipping and working with international orders, which is a common thing. So I actually have a video where I talk about different strategies around international shipping. Again, you can access this, but it's on my YouTube channel. If you just Google YouTube and Lisa Furland, international shipping, it pops right up. But so here's one thing, a couple things just to consider really quickly is how many backers do you really expect to have from other countries? I live in Sweden, so everyone is from a different country. For me, all my US backers are from international, so I had to think about how I was going to fulfill all my orders in the US in a cost-effective way, because shipping from Sweden is not price effective at all. So that's why I chose to fulfill everything through KDP Print and have Amazon ship everything. Spending that extra money on POD and having Amazon ship it was worth it to me than buying everything, paying for all the shipping, and then spending like twice as much. So you really need to think about that. And I ran my campaign as if I was based in the US. So I included US shipping. I said all US shipping is included. So the US backers, because I knew I would have most US backers, it was great. They didn't have to pay any extra for shipping. They knew exactly what they were getting. Now, one thing when you wanted to think about international shipping is that please, as someone who lives internationally, do not make your shipping more than 50% of the pledge price. I see this so often. There's a $25 hardcover book and then international shipping is $25. Like, I get it. I know that shipping is $25 to Sweden. I get it, but it's unreasonable. It's just a total unreasonable ask. And like, you just lose international shippers that way. Not only that, but I pay a fee, an import fee on everything that comes from outside the EU. So the $25 hardcover book that the US folks are getting costs me like $65 at the end of the day. I was like, ugh. So I can't do it anymore. I can't afford it. To support all these authors, I really want to, but you just have to think about it. So the video goes into it, but basically what you do if you're including the US shipping, your base price is already inflated, right? So you don't need to add 100% of the shipping onto it. You know you're going to take a bit of a hit. It may cost you, or you may break even on international shipments, but then it's net zero for you, and it's not going to turn them away or make them not want to support you. So you have to really look at how many backers are you really expecting, then what you want to do from there. But those are some options for you. Or you could just not offer international shipping and say, forget it. All right, Dimitar wanted to know what are some good Facebook groups where you can post things for free. And what to post basically, so that should you post in all possible groups. So he's really talking about, I think it's a he, I'm sorry if it's a she, talking about strategy and when to post where. Good question. Okay, so on Facebook, here's my strategy, and this is what I recommend doing. I see people not doing this all the time. Up to you. I say share your direct link to your campaign just a few times on launch day, like 3 times. And then after that, you need to create content. You need to create blogs. You need to create essays and graphics and podcasts and other stuff. Make a video, show your illustrator illustrating something, do a behind the scenes look, tell me why you're writing the book, interview someone who's written books in your topic, like make it interesting. And then you have a call to action and a link to your campaign at the end of that. So what you're doing is you can share that content with anybody. You can share that with your friends and family. Say like, this is a really cool behind the scenes reason why I'm writing the book. They read it and then they get to the bottom and you've warmed them up. This is what we're talking about with the warmth of your audience. You've warmed them up. They've read, they've enjoyed your content. They're like, wow, this is really cool. And then they click on the link at the bottom. If you keep bombarding people with back me on Kickstarter, support me on Kickstarter, then it feels like begging. And that's what we don't want. We're not begging. This is a business. We're marketing, we're getting and growing our audience. So I really only shared the direct link to my Kickstarter just a few times on launch day. It's launch day, we're live, go get it. A few times just so people in different time zones saw it in their timeline. And then after that, everything else was content, was interesting content. And there are different types of content. I have 2 blogs here for you to check out afterwards. It's how to basically educate your audience while you're marketing your book, and then the secret to marketing your book without annoying people, which is basically you write. And I don't know why people refuse to believe me on this, but writers should be writing. You should be writing. Write essays, write interesting things. Think of 5 to 10 interesting tangential topics to your book and write about it. I wrote about working with my illustrator and how the relationship was so important to build and how we had mutual trust. At the end, I said, oh, by the way, you can check out our work together here on Kickstarter. And then people would click or they wouldn't. But I felt better sharing that content than I did just back me on Kickstarter. That gets old and people tune out. Okay, how can I get people on board before launching the campaign? Really important question. So this is where we're talking about list building again. And when I talked about where to put your newsletter, opt-in list, this is another thing. So offer something exclusive. Give them something they don't already have and they won't be able to get any elsewhere. So either a free copy of the PDF, ebook of the book that you're going to be crowdfunding. I did this. Now, the free ebook I gave out was not at all the same as the final version. The final version is better. Of course, but they got to get the story and see what it was. And then of course with children's books, this works really well with children's books. They wanted the whole book. If you have a novel or a nonfiction book, you could give a chapter, download the first chapter for free. And then you promote that. And that's how you grow your list. An extra download. This could be something, it could be printable pages, could be a worksheet, could be a workbook, could be a webinar, could be anything. So any ebook, your time, if you have skills in some topic, you say you get a free 20-minute session with me when you join my list, or you get this free Ask Me Anything session, whatever it is, offer them something exclusive. You can also offer early access to limited rewards. You could say there are only 25 available. When you're on my list, you get first access, or you get first access for the first 24 hours of the campaign. After that, whatever. You can also ask for feedback. I've seen authors do a market survey. Now, just beware, the more people who are on your list who don't know you and haven't been following you, the less likely they are to convert. So once you have these people, you have to keep them warm by sending them relevant content, engage with them, and be consistent. And this is the hardest part, is creating these things and keeping them warm so that they're used to opening your emails. And then when it comes time to launch your campaign, they're used to opening your emails and then they click. That's what we want. And of course, you want to promote this offer well in advance of your campaign launch. All of this takes a lot of time. I think people underestimate how much time this all takes. What kind of updates should I be saying so I'm not repeating myself, the same groups? again, you want to be mindful of your communication with your backers and your non-backers, because you want to send different messages. With your backers, you want to thank them. They've already supported you. So be careful what you ask. If you're asking them to do anything, they've already done what you asked them the first time. So make sure that when you engage with them another time, that you're very careful and you're not asking too much. Some people say, oh, share this with 5 of your friends. That's a big ask. Like, I don't know if I have 5 friends I want to share this with. 1 friend, sure, I can come up with 1 person, but 5, no. So that might be the difference between someone taking action and just ignoring you. Just be careful. And then your non-backers, of course, you're going to want to target them and get them interested in what you're doing to back your campaign. So your official Kickstarter updates, and this is true for Indiegogo as well, sends an email to all the backers already and is publicly available. So anyone who hasn't backed your project yet can look at it. So you want to make these visual and blog-like and worthwhile to read. It should be a worthwhile update. Please don't send me an update asking for more reviews on Amazon. Like, I don't care. Make it a worthwhile update, something that's interesting, and I will open the email and check it out. Now, social media updates, this is where like brainstorming comes in. Celebratory posts, if you have a new reward that you're announcing or a new collaboration or something, this is all during your campaign. If you've been featured on a third-party website or in the press, if you're going on TV, if you're going on the radio, like take a picture of you with the headphones on, be like, yay. These are all social media updates and are great. And then you share the whatever it is, the picture, the essay, the link, and then you have your call to action and the link to your campaign. Always, always, always make it as easy as possible for people to back your campaign. All right. Lindsay had a question about pre-orders and coinciding Amazon pre-orders with crowdfunding campaigns. Now, Lindsay's doing an Indiegogo, that's IGG, Indiegogo campaign. And so she's like, oh, confused about this Amazon thing. So unfortunately, your crowdfunding campaign is your pre-order campaign. Yeah, this is, you're doing it before. So I have seen people crowdfund and then do a pre-order on Amazon, and I think it just kind of is more noise, like you're kind of wasting your effort. The whole idea is that you're focusing your early supporters to support your crowdfunding campaign, and you trade in on that. So you're probably not going to get your Amazon bestseller or whatever, because you're trading. You got the money up front rather than the Amazon orange sticker. That's just kind of what it is. Of course, on Amazon, you can make your ebook available through KDP. So it's available for pre-order. But again, do you care at that point? I mean, you got the money. The whole point is to get the money to fulfill the book. So I wouldn't worry so much about it. If you can juggle all those balls, more power to you. But I would just say, just focus on your campaign and get the money, and don't worry about Amazon pre-orders. The whole idea is you get the money in hand, and as soon as you do, that's when you start fulfilling backers' orders. It takes 2 weeks for the bank to clear, for the money to go into your bank account, and then you can start fulfilling if you're ready. If not, sometimes it takes time. You're still working on your illustrations. You're still editing the text. So just to be clear with your backers what you're doing and use the money to fulfill that way. What I'm going to do once I have everything finished and fulfilled is I'm going to send my balance sheet to all my backers so they can see how I spent the money, which engenders more trust, transparency, and they financially invested in me, and me as a business, I'm going to take it and be financially transparent with them in terms of how I spent the money. And I think that engenders goodwill and builds brand loyalty. All right, but up to you what you want to do. Okay. Okay, people want to write me checks. Does that hurt my campaign since it's not showing the true amount of my funding with the flexible goal option? Okay, so Lindsay's talking about flexible goal, which Lindsay, I hope you listened to earlier what I said about flexible versus fixed, and that you don't choose flexible goal option, but we'll talk about that later if you want offline. So yes, the backers, you want more backers. So if you have people giving you money on the side, that's great for your pocketbook, but it's not great for your campaign. Because the more contributions and the more backers you have for a campaign, the more social proof you have that your book is worth supporting. So for example, what looks better? $1,000 from 15 people or $1,000 from 125 people? the latter, right? 125 people looks better than 15. We all know 10 rich people, right? Maybe not, I don't know. I don't know if I know 10 rich people, but we all know people who would give us $20 and wouldn't ask for us to pay it back. And they were like, yeah, sure, here's $20. So that's not really impressive. What's impressive is the number of people you have supporting your book. So getting 100 backers is much harder to do than raising $1,000. So the number of backers you have is visual proof. And so yes, you want those contributions to go to IDG. What I would do if I were you, if you are there in person, rather than saying take a check, be like, hang on, let me just do it real quick on my phone and we can do it right here and there. And then you set it up for them, set up their little account and walk them through it so that it goes to their account. What you cannot do, please do not do this, is back it yourself. Do not take the money and then make a pledge yourself or pledge from your partner's account. Please don't do that. It's not worth it. It breaks the terms and conditions of both the payment processors like Stripe and PayPal and all the rest. And it breaks the terms and conditions of both Kickstarter and Indiegogo because they really don't want any fraud on their account, on their platform. They don't want any betting. They don't want any of that. So keep it very transparent and have them create an account themselves and back your campaign that way. Okay, if I am planning an in-person launch, hang on, sorry. If I am planning an in-person launch party, should I launch my crowdfunding campaign on the same day? Lindsay, you're crazy. No way. But yes, maybe, I don't know. So the whole point of launch day is different than a book launch party. Okay, they're separate events. They are separate things. They have separate goals. So the whole idea of crowdfunding launch day is you get the biggest number of backers to support your campaign because it sets the tone, it builds momentum, it does all that stuff. So launch day is the most important day. So you not being in front of your computer planning an event is kind of dangerous unless it's like the end of the day and that's how you want to spend your day. I was up until, I probably worked an 18-hour day on launch day. Maybe longer. I was up at 5 a.m. and I didn't go to bed till 10:30 or 11. I was exhausted. Seeing people in person was not like an option. Like I sent my kids to work with my husband. Like I was totally just working flat out all day, sending emails to absolutely everyone I knew. Now, do you have a system for getting people to support the campaign on launch day at your event? Like, are you walking around with iPads? Do you have computers set up to get people to create an account, log in, and back the book? Or is this a celebratory launch? If this is celebratory, I would not do it on launch day. Do it some other time. Because if you want to make this an event all about the campaign, you can do that. And people have done that. It's much more in the Silicon Valley tech world where they do this, where they have people walking around with iPads and they have people backing the campaign there and it's a bunch of rich people in the room. So it's different. I think if event planning is your thing and you can do all this and make it work and leverage the people there to become your backers, then do it. But I think it's better to do not on launch day. Launch day, you're going to have your supporters are going to support you because you will have educated them and got them all lined up on launch day. I would wait until you have something to launch. Wait until like things slow down a little, or plan it after your campaign is successful and it's a celebratory thing and you can relax. That's what I would do. I did work with an author who is an event planner. And she did multiple events in the last 2 weeks of her campaign. And that's where she raised most of her money, was in those last 2 weeks. So it can be a great generator of backers. It just depends on how savvy you are at event planning. Okay, so I am going to stop there and open it up for questions. So Susan and Cassandra, you're welcome to ask any other questions you may have. We have time. I kind of zoomed through this kind of fast. If you have any questions on the ones we've already asked, I will pause and open it up. Anyone? Okay, I'm going to check my email. I have one from Andrea Lopez. She says she has a question about launching. Okay, is it advisable to do a 60-day campaign? Doing some research on Kickstarter, I've noticed some people have done it. Are there any cons? All right, when you're looking at your campaign length, 60 days is a long time. And there have been statistical studies that have been shown that most campaigns that are successful are 30 days or less. It actually becomes less successful the longer it is, mostly because you're exhausted. And so is your audience. Your audience is like, they either have seen your messages in the 30 days and are not interested, or you're not targeting the right people. So I would keep it at 30 days or less. That is what I would advise. That's what the average campaign length is, and that's what everyone recommends. That's what I would do. She's saying, her book is in Spanish. Should my campaign be bilingual? And can I set it up this way? Yes, absolutely. You can set it up this way. If you want to, since your book is in Spanish, you can just set everything up in Spanish if you want. Kickstarter has ideas for doing 2 languages on one page if you want to reach international people, because Kickstarter is an international platform. So there will be non-Spanish speaking people looking at your campaign. But again, you're directing your audience to your link. So if your audience is Spanish speaking, you should be fine. Can people pledge if abroad? Yes, absolutely. In another currency, how does delivery work? It just works. The payment processor processes those payments. That's why we pay them the 3% to process all those payments. They get charged in the currency of your bank, but it is exchanged at the exchange rate of that day. It's all seamless. I can just tell you that. Aside from exploring and backing a few other campaigns, yes, good. You should. We didn't talk about that. You should be backing other campaigns that are meaningful to you so that you get to experience what it's like as a backer before you ask your audience to do. You should know what it's like. Even if you back it just for $1, you should be able to. I kind of back at $10 because $10 is like, yeah, I'm kind of invested in this. So I want to see how they interact with me at $10. Is it self-explanatory to set up the timing of the rewards and the unlocking of the rewards? No, that is not self-explanatory. That is totally up to you and how you want to do it. So setting up your Kickstarter is actually fairly easy, I think, but it's open. It's kind of like a website. Like what the content you put in there is totally customizable, and it's up to you as to what to do. So it's a blank slate, and that's where the strategy comes in. And that's mostly where I work with authors in terms of helping them craft the right messages that resonate with their audience, and then set up rewards that are reasonable for what they're offering. Okay, how many rewards do you consider appropriate so as not to overwhelm people with too many choices? This is a tough question. How long is a piece of string? I would say, I think I had like 7 rewards. What you can do is put up rewards that you think are good. And then if no one has backed them after a certain point, you delete them. That's what I did. I was like, no one has backed this. I'm going to delete it because I didn't want my page cluttered with a bunch of 0 rewards. So I actually deleted a few because they were no longer pertinent and they clearly weren't resonating with my audience. And then, so it depends, 7, 10, I don't know, but 20 rewards is too much. Like, you really have to think about what's reasonable, and you don't want to give people too many options because then they get overwhelmed and they won't pick anything. What strategies can I use to encourage people to pledge on day 1? Okay, so this is really a good one because you want launch day to be the biggest. And what you can do to encourage people on day 1 is you have a time expiring reward. Not a quantity expiring reward, a time expiring reward, and you direct people to that one. So, and this kind of makes some people upset, which is I didn't do a time expiring reward. I just made my reward the reward. But I'll explain both reasons. So when you have a time expiring reward, you say this reward expires 24 hours after launch day because you want people to pick it. Now, the double-edged sword on this is that people who will support you no matter what, aren't going to go for that like lower priced time sensitive reward. They're going to pledge at a higher reward because they love you and they support you. And this is like your aunt who wants to support you. She's like, no, give me $5. And so they're not going for that one anyway. So the only people you're really motivating are the people who don't really know you and may not take action on launch day. Anyway, so it's kind of tricky. And then the reason why some people don't like this time sensitive reward is that people who discover your campaign later, if you're running a 30-day campaign, they don't have access to that reward. And they're like, oh, well, that's a bummer. Like, just because I discovered you a day later, I don't have access to it. So I didn't do that. What I did was my rewards were fat. I made them as valuable as possible, and I said, just go get it. And I let people take action, but I stressed to everyone, taking action on launch day is the most important. If you want to help me back in campaign at any level on this day is the best way to help me. And then the second best way is to back and share. So I just that was the message. There was no special reward on launch day or anything like that. But again, it's tough, man. There's lots of strategy to do. Okay. I'm reading the comments now. Okay. Thanks for the chat from Cassandra. Thanks, Lisa. All the info over the years you've provided on the internet. Reassuring for you starting out. Good. From Susan, Lisa, this has been great. Can you do a campaign before your book is complete? Absolutely. Most people do campaigns before their book is complete. It's now very in fashion to do a campaign when your book is done and you just use it as like a marketing tool. But you're really kind of supposed to fund something that doesn't exist yet. So for example, how do you pay an illustrator before you have the funds? So this is where some investment comes in hand. So you should have, and I recommend, and I can send you, I think I have a video on this. It's all the things you should have before you launch. But you should have your book cover done. So if you're doing a children's book, that means it's illustrated, at least the thumbnail is illustrated. And then you can have like the digital renderings, make it look 3D. And then you want to have at least 2 interior spreads. I say 2 to 3. So that costs a bit of money, right? And you have to have the text for that done, at least, because you don't want to spend money on illustration if the text isn't done. So you kind of have to be a little further down the line. At the very least, if you don't want to spend money on doing illustrative spreads, you can work with an illustrator to illustrate the main character maybe, and you just have a character and just maybe have the main character or main character sketch. Just, you need to have something to give people an idea as to what your story is about, because they're reading books. This isn't like a gadget or a gizmo where you have a prototype, but everyone should have a prototype book. So even if you have an incomplete book, it really helps to have like your picture next to the book. You know, it's just really nice to have like a physical book in hand. So even if you did like just a fake book with no content inside, if you just had the book cover and a blank book, that's something that you can take physical pictures of, and it just goes a lot further. Okay, then Cassandra says, I'm still in the early phase and need to start building my email list for a Kickstarter in the future. Yes, I'm a mom. I don't have time to write, newsletter, etc. I'm a mom too. I may be able to do emails intermittently. I'm not sure how to maximize this with minimal effort. Okay, so how to maximize the minimal effort? I don't know. If I find the answer, I'll be sure to do it myself. So far, this requires a lot of effort. And so since you're looking at a limited time frame, what I do is I don't have a lot of time. I batch. So I batch my efforts. When I'm in write mode, I write everything. When I'm in blog mode, I blog everything. So if I'm writing emails, I try to do everything right then and there, and then I schedule it. So you can schedule your emails to go out to your newsletter list, either if writing too often is tough, if you can do a blog every other week. And then you just send the email out. That's your blog. You can even just send out an RSS feed, which is tied to your blog. So every time you publish your blog to your WordPress site, let's say, on every Friday, they get links with all of the blogs that you've posted that week. That's such an easy, consistent thing to do. You set it up so that they get it every week or every other week or every month or whatever. But just consistency is key, even if it's just a quick, hey, how are you doing? This is what I'm working on. What are you working on? But again, there's no minimal effort here. Like it's a lot of work. Fortunately, with our systems these days, we can make it as automated as possible. So I would look at batching your work. So batch your social media and say, okay, I'm going to sit down for the next 2 hours and plot out the next 2 months of my social media posts. And you just sit there and you do it. And that's what I do is I look for blog posts, and then I print off this calendar. I just do a little check mark. I manage like 4 websites. And so I just do a check mark, and I know where in the box, depending on which website I'm talking about. So I have my own little system, and I just keep track of what's been scheduled for what. Okay, and then freebies, so lead magnets. Oh, good. I'm glad that helps. Freebies are something else. So that is content that you are creating to get people to subscribe. So I auto deliver my freebies. Again, once I set up the system, I kind of just set it up. So I develop a PDF, or I have my free crowdfunding mini course, which was like a bunch of videos that I just chopped into things and set up an automated email system so that once someone is in the system, they just get emails automatically delivering those videos. So I'm not doing that manually. Hopefully that helps. Oh, you're an illustrator, so freebies are easy. Oh my gosh, yes, freebies are so easy. I love like Instagram freebies. So if you had like just like a pack of 10 illustrations or like inspirational quotes that I could use on my Instagram, like I would love it. And I love that stuff. So if freebies are easier for you, then that's great. Then you have plenty of options for opt-ins. And yes, I think pretty illustrators do so great on Instagram because people love to look. It's just eye candy. The hard part on Instagram as an illustrator is that no one clicks on the link. No one goes to your profile to click on the link. So it becomes like a real pain in the butt. If you are an illustrator though, and you have, over like 25,000 followers, is it 100,000 followers? I don't even know what it is, but there's something with the swipe up, and that is real. That really unlocks Instagram. Is when you hit that number of followers, people can just swipe up and then access your website without clicking anything. And that's what they do. I don't have that many followers, so I have not unlocked that. So Instagram for me is not good for converting anybody. I'm much better at converting via email and via Facebook. Hope that helps. Stephen, it's good to see you. Glad you're here. Anyone have any other questions? And Lindsay is here. Thank you for joining. If anyone has any questions, you can hop off mute and join, or you can type in the chat. Hi, Lindsay. So good you could be here. And yes, okay. So I answered like a bazillion questions. I think it was only 20, but it felt like a lot. And if you have any other questions, there are some questions that got pretty specific. And I think the specific questions that's when it turns into the individual coaching, because I need more answers from you. And it's really hard for me to do that without getting more information. So this type is good for high level. Okay, good. You go back and watch the video. Yes, no problem. I'm happy to do this. So yeah, when it comes to all these questions, we could go on and on and on. But we can stop if we don't have any more questions. And so what I want to do is, okay, everyone who is here on live, so Cassandra, Susan, Stephen, and Lindsay, I will put all your names in the random generator, and one of you will win a free 40-minute strategy session with me. But as a special offer, if you want to enroll in my Crowdfunding for Authors course specifically, you will get a free 40-minute strategy with me when you, if you book or enroll by next Friday, July 5th. So you have like a week to think about it, think it over, and you'll get a free 40-minute session. But because 4 of you are here, 1 of you will get it. Now that means you could possibly get 2 40-minute sessions with me, which would be really great. And what is involved in the course is basically what I went through here. I just took some slides from my course, but I have 5 hours of lessons. And I really go into details to exactly how to do all of these things. So how to set up your lead magnet, your freebie, how to set up your automated emails, all of that stuff is there. And then you get access to me in the Facebook group, as well as other crowdfunding authors in my specific Crowdfunding for Authors Facebook group, which is nice. So that if you have questions as you go along, you can get those answered as you go. And then, of course, you have unlimited access to resources in the Crowdfunding Vault. And that has email templates, so you don't have to recreate the wheel, an Excel spreadsheet to help you calculate and track all of your everything. I can show you the Excel spreadsheet in a minute. Case studies across various genres, so you can look at crowdfunding campaigns that might be similar to yours and get a good sense of where to get started. And then extra tutorials. So there's some stuff that we didn't cover, like exactly how to present it on your campaign page. So that it really depends on what you're doing. But if you want to offer add-ons, that's a next level kind of advanced crowdfunding move. So there are extra tutorials there in the Crowdfunding Vault that are in addition to the course. So if you enroll by next Friday, you get this free 40-minute session with me when you complete the course that we can help get you to the next level. Okay? All right, I am going to stop there. Let me just check the chat. Are there any more chats? No. Okay, that's it for me. This session has been recorded. So once this downloads, I will then re-upload it and send it out to everyone so that you have it. I'm also going to convert my PowerPoint slides into a PDF so that you have all access to all the links and everything that I shared. And of course, if you have any questions related to the course itself, or if you want to book time with me to go over these sessions in more detail, you are welcome to do that as well. All right. No, thank you. I am so happy to help answer your questions whenever possible. Okay, everyone, enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.